Hello everyone, this is Pooka and welcome to another Pokemon TCG video. Today we're going to look at another updated deck with XY Phantom Forces, and I've been getting a lot of requests for Pyroar. So today we're going to look at the big bad Pyroar. So for those of you who don't know what Pyroar does, it has this awesome ability, Intimidating Mane. Prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's basic Pokemon. So the idea here is most of the Pokemon in today's game are basics. Most of the big attackers are basics. Think of all the top decks, outside of the Donphan decks, most of them are just basic Pokemon. They revolve around Yveltal EX, Lugia EX, Frisian EX, Genesect EX, so on and so forth. Just lots of big EXs. And Pyroar does not get hurt by any of those. So that's the entire premise of Pyroar. Now, its attack isn't great, but it is decent enough. Scorching Fang for 1 fire and 2 colorless does 60, and then you can discard a fire to do 30 more damage. Again, it's solid, nothing spectacular, but when they can't hurt you, well, solid is good enough. So the entire focus of the deck is going to be around Pyroar and taking advantage of it. Now, Pyroar in itself can't always get the job done, right? If we're facing something like a Donphan deck, what do? They're an evolution. They're going to beat you down. You just don't do enough damage to compete with that kind of a deck. So we're going to have to run some other stuff alongside Pyroar. But before we get to that, we're actually only going to run 3 of this Pyroar and 1 of the brand new Pyroar. It has the ability Flare Command. You may discard a fire energy attached to this Pokemon once during your turn. Then if you do, it's basically like a Lysander. You get to bring out one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Now, I don't know if this is worth running. My first instinct is to say it is not worth running, since you would rather just have 4 of the other Pyroar, but I can certainly see where this card can help out. Right? If you just have a fire energy sitting on it, it can turn into an instant Lysander. Don't have to use your supporter for the turn. And that's pretty cool. You can get all sorts of nice plays with this Pyroar. Again, I think it's probably better just to run all 4 of the other one, but we're going to give this guy a try. Of course, we got a 4/4 Pyroar line. Now, how are we going to help out against other decks? Well, evolution decks tend to have problems with Seismitoad EX, so we're going to run a couple of these. Quaking Punch takes away their item cards, so most evolution decks really rely on item cards, whether it's Rare Candy or just Ultra Ball. And, if we can take those away, we can shut down those evolution decks completely. So Seismitoad EX is great. Also great early on against Donphan decks. We can knock out Phanpy, which is weak to water, as long as we have a Muscle Band. We can get that knockout, which we do run 3 Muscle Band in this deck. So this is solely going to be used for Quaking Punch against decks that would normally give Pyroar trouble. And then to further our matchup against Donphan, we're actually going to run a couple of these Kyurem. Now, this is not a great card on its own anymore. When it came out, it was very strong, 130 HP, Outrage, and it was actually used for Glaciate for quite some time, but we're actually just going to use this for Outrage. A Donphan deck, if they're going to spinning turn and hit you, well, then we can Outrage for a lot of damage. Spinning turn really won't ever knock you out. And if they have to use Wreck to knock out a Kyurem, well, that's probably good for you. So the idea here is you're going to take a hit, and then you're going to use a Lysander when the Donphan goes to the bench and knock them out with Outrage. Pretty cool. And again, Phanpy is still weak to water, so a Kyurem can take down a Phanpy as long as you have a Muscle Band attached, since you would do 40 times 2. And get a knockout on Phanpy. So this deck is all about countering the metagame, right? Most of the decks just have basic Pokemon, so we have Pyroar, and then there's Donphan, which is really the big evolution deck, and we're going to run Kyurem and Seismitoad for those. Seems pretty cool. Just a pretty straightforward deck, but hey, it's very effective. It's sort of difficult to build, though, so we'll take a look at the trainers here now. I don't feel like Seismitoad EX is very good unless you have Hypnotoxic Lasers, so we will be running those. Poisons your opponent's active Pokemon, then you flip for Sleep. Very devastating card, especially with Quaking Punch. And then Burbank City Gym Quaking Punch on its own only does 30 or 50 damage. So against Pokemon EX, you're really not doing much. It's going to take a lot of time to knock those things out, unless you have the Laser and Verbank, which you really do need. So we're going to be running those along with the 3 Muscle Band we've already looked at. The supporters are a little funky, so we'll look at these. We got the standard 4 Professor Juniper and 4 N, and then what has become pretty standard, the 2 Lysander, and a couple VS Seeker, and a couple Colress, and we're going to run 1 Skyla just for the heck of it, and not Colress, 2 Blacksmith. This is where, you know, it's a little weird. Right, we want to be running Blacksmith to power up Pyroar, but it takes up your supporter for the turn, so you don't want to run too many of these. 2 might be just right. I could see running 1 now that we have VS Seeker, but I'm going to go with 2. Seems like a decent amount in this deck. Just allows you to power up a Pyroar immediately and get some energy back into play. We also have 2 Bicycle, just some nice non-supporter draw, and Computer Search will be the A-Spec card for this deck. Going to go with 4 Ultra Ball just to search out our Pokemon, and then 3 Switch just because we have a lot of heavy retreat costs. And a common strategy against Pyroar will be Hypnotoxic Laser, so we want to run a pretty high amount of switching cards. You may even want a 4th in this deck, believe it or not. And then 4 Double Colorless and 8 Fire Energy will round out the deck. You could run some other stuff in here, like a Reshiram, you could run Charizard EX, you know, all sorts of fire Pokemon, maybe Mewtwo EX. That's totally up to you. This is just a very plain and simple version of this deck. And let's take a look at it in action on Pokemon TCG Online and see if we can get something going with the big bad Pyroar. So we're actually going up against Crazy, who is my longtime friend Chris Bianchi, a very, very good player. World's competitor many times over. So this should be a pretty darn good game if you ask me, but that is a pretty darn bad hand if you ask me. Just going to attach the fire and pass the turn. And oh no, a head ringer. This is just awful. We have 2 fire, a Lysander, VS Seeker, and 2 different kinds of Pyroar. If we can get an Ultra Ball, maybe this might not be terrible, but looking at it right now, this is going to be absolutely awful. And we do see an Ultra Ball for an Yveltal EX, discarding a Darkness Energy and a Muscle Band. And the Darkness Energy going on the active, along with another Muscle Band. So this is a pretty huge turn 1 for my opponent. Crushing Hammer is tails, fortunately. That's the one thing going right for us so far. Crushing Hammer is heads. So never mind. We have been completely dominated on this first turn. Seismitoad EX and a second Yveltal coming out for my opponent. And we're going to see an Oblivion Wing turn 1, hitting for 30, getting an energy back, and this is just brutal. And also a Hypnotoxic Laser. Ouch! That was not good. That was the opposite of good. After my awful first turn, he gets pretty much a perfect first turn, and this is just dreadful. And we're going to have to top deck something soon to get out of this mess, otherwise we're going to be in quite a bit of trouble. So I'm going to do all I can do here and try to buy some time. Lysander can bring out one of those benched Pokemon. I can do either Seismitoad EX or Yveltal. I'm a little worried about doing Seismitoad EX because a Quaking Punch would shut off any Ultra Ball I could get or any other helpful item cards. So I'm going to bring out the other regular Yveltal. My opponent will have to pay an energy to retreat. It has a 2 retreat cost, so it's going to be unlikely that I get attacked unless there's a switch or a float stone. And oh, it actually forces an N. So this is way better than I ever expected. And now we're in business, folks. We got supporters, we got Ultra Ball, we got energy, we got all sorts of stuff to work with. And that's better than my old hand. Tell you what, I'll trade this hand for that other hand any day. Okay, so here I have an Ultra Ball, and we're definitely going to play it. And the question is, what do I get? I could go right for a Litleo and, you know, try to get Pyroar out, and that could be a pretty decent way to go about things. But I'm actually going to go with a Seismitoad EX, which may seem strange, but I want to try to slow down my opponent. Take away things like Bicycle and Ultra Ball and all that kind of stuff, lasers and anything that could speed up the game for my opponent, you know, like a switch. Ultra Ball could find a Darkrai, things like that, and I just want to make it a safer environment for a Litleo to come down. I could also shut off something like a Pokemon catcher, but the idea here is to kind of clear the way for Litleo to come down and give it a turn to evolve. That's going to be the big deal here. So let's go with the Skyla, definitely grabbing an Ultra Ball right here, even though it looks like it's my last one. Uh-oh. So yeah, we're going to go with the Ultra Ball, discarding Kyurem. I don't think I'm going to put that down this game. And let's get rid of a Professor Juniper since I do have 2 in my hand. And let's grab Litleo, put him down with a Fire Energy, and start to threaten the Pyroar. It does not look like my opponent is playing Garbodor. We see Crushing Hammers, and usually with Crushing Hammer you do not see Garbodor in these days. Just a more aggressive Yveltal, Seismitoad kind of deck. It's been very, very powerful. So that actually works out to my advantage because I don't have to worry about Garbodor's Garbotoxin shutting off my Pyroar's Intimidating Mane, which is good. Alright. So we just get hit by another Oblivion Wing, and I have a double colorless here. I'm definitely going to put that on to the Litleo. And the question here is, do I evolve to the other Pyroar? And this is just kind of an unfortunate circumstance. I would say no. We need the good Pyroar out here, the intimidating one. Yes, that's what we need right now. An intimidating Pyroar. I have a decision here. Do I want to just play down a Verbank City Gym? Obviously, my opponent played a laser, and these kinds of decks play 4 laser, 2 Verbank. So why not just get rid of my Verbank? My opponent can't play any item cards, so I won't be hurt by Hypnotoxic Laser immediately. And it'll just make any Verbank City Gym my opponent has into cards I can't play. You know, that might be flawed logic, because if they don't play Verbank, I just gave them a big way to beat me. But I'm going to assume he plays Verbank, so I'm just going to put mine out there first while I can get rid of it. So we see Yveltal EX coming active. The Yveltal on the bench getting a second Darkness Energy. I'm not sure why. Maybe powering up for the Darkness Blade. Could be weird. I don't know. But there we see the Evil Ball, which means goodbye Seismitoad. Poor guy. Gonna go with the Hypnotoxic Laser, and this should definitely be a good thing for me. Should be able to get some extra damage on there and set up for an easier knockout where I won't have to discard energy if I don't have to. So I have a VS Seeker and a Colress here. I could Colress for 4. I don't really want to bench the Kyurem. Could VS Seeker, but oh man, I've already used the Lysander and a VS Seeker, and I have a feeling I'm definitely going to need those Lysander to win this game. So I'm going to be patient here, just do the 60, knowing full well that my opponent absolutely cannot knock me out. There is really nothing that could drop down this turn and knock out my Pyroar. I really mean that. I don't think there's a single card that could come out right here and knock out Pyroar, because anything you put down is a basic. Just not going to happen. So Pyroar's safe. I don't really need to worry about that. So no rush to play a supporter right there. Although I would love to get an extra Litleo or 2 on the board. That would be awesome. Looks like I just have not been able to do that though. So now we're going to see an energy onto the Keldeo and an energy switch. Seismitoad already having a double colorless on it. And it looks like my opponent's going to go for probably the only strategy you can go for against Pyroar when you don't have Garbodor, and that is Hypnotoxic Laser and Quaking Punch. So the idea there is poison, and then I can't play any switch, which is pretty powerful. So there's the Hypnotoxic Laser, and then if I get unlucky, I can also stay asleep. So I can actually get knocked out from poison damage and not be able to retreat or play a switch, and it's super annoying, but Hey, you know, that's just what Seismitoad is. Super annoying. So it looks like my opponent has gone for the right strategy here. And I definitely need to get another Pyroar down soon. Where are you, Litleo? I don't really know. So here comes Seismitoad. Here's the Quaking Punch. And oh, I do stay asleep. That is a major bummer. Staying asleep there, not cool. But on the bright side, I won't actually be knocked out coming back into my turn. It'll be 60 damage going back into his turn, 90 going back into my turn, and then I'll just retreat out of the poison, assuming I actually wake up. That's a big assumption there. But, yeah, hopefully that is the case. Let's go. Again, I could play a chorus here, but I actually need some extra energy to retreat anyway. So let's just play the blacksmith and pass. These have been pretty passive turns here. But what's my alternative? Chorus for 4 or 5? No, I think getting the energy is going to be a much better usage of my turn. So I actually woke up. That's a good thing. Pyroar stays alive, stays awake, wakes up, is no longer sleeping, not in a slumber. Anyway, this is going to be a really weird game. So my opponent already took 2 prizes on an early Seismitoad. There's another Seismitoad on my bench just waiting to be knocked out. And my Pyroar is poisoned, only has 20 HP left. I'm going to go bench the Curum here. I think I'm going to retreat into it on this turn. And just to keep the Pyroar alive, you know, no reason to just let it get knocked out by poison. Force my opponent to have another laser to get the knockout on that thing. Right, seems like a good idea. And I drew into another Litleo, thank goodness. And we should be getting another Pyroar up soon, unless my opponent gets a Lysander or a Catcher this turn. That could be bad. If that happens, yuck. Right, that's just bringing out Litleo, Quaking Punch for a knockout. Gross. Don't want to see that happen. We do see a Crushing Hammer heads. And I actually wonder which energy my opponent's going to go for. It looks like the one on the Pyroar. That way I require a double colorless to attack with it. Not a bad move at all. But this leaves the energy on my other Litleo, which if it evolves, hey, then I just need a DC or a blacksmith and we can power up that one. So things are looking decent so far. I am losing in prizes. I do have a big liability on the board in that Seismitoad EX, but otherwise, I don't know, this is going to be really, really close. Just considering the only way my opponent can knock out a Pyroar is through Hypnotoxic Laser, which a couple of them are gone. So that's just all stuff we got to keep in mind here. I'm going to get a Pyroar down at this point, and I have a double colorless. I have a couple options here. Number 1 is to attach it to Pyroar and pass. Number 2 is to be a little more aggressive. We can actually attach it to Curum and Outrage. This could end up being cool for a couple reasons. It puts pressure on my opponent, number 1. Number 2, if my opponent wants to continue using Quaking Punch, he'll have to play Hypnotoxic Laser to knock out Curum, otherwise I just Outrage for a knockout. So you can't Quaking Punch without a laser, and then if you use a laser, then you can't hurt Pyroar. So either he has to burn a laser, which is a possibility, or he has a Lysander, which that's okay, you'd have to burn one of those two, or he attacks with something not Seismitoad, and then I get access to item cards. Alright, so Curum is actually coming in handy here. It's a pretty big deal what just happened there. It just puts on some pressure and puts me in a pretty favorable position no matter what happens. No matter what, I am gaining a little bit of an advantage, forcing my opponent to do something he didn't want to do. So here we see an N. My opponent might be digging for a Hypnotoxic Laser here, but we just see the rush in, and we might see the retreat. And I don't think those Yveltal EX even have enough energy to use Evil Ball. So my opponent actually has to Oblivion Wing, which is really strange, for 30 damage, get an extra energy into play. And that opens up the opportunity for me to get a knockout with my Kyurem. Go figure. This is getting weirder and weirder. So here, I have a Fire Energy, got a Hypnotoxic Laser. So I'm using Outrage for 100 right now. The 30 from the laser will finish off that Yveltal. That is huge. And I'll get another energy down on the board. Also huge. Can power up next turn. We can certainly Scorching Fang. And I'm going to go with a Bicycle for 1. Gets me Computer Search. And I could end here, but I don't really feel the need to. I don't think that's entirely necessary, so I think I'm just going to Outrage and take the knockout. I actually like my hand here. I got a Laser, a Computer Search, a Fire Energy. There's really not much else I could be asking for besides Lysander directly, perhaps, but that's okay. I'm okay with this hand. So sometimes, you know, you're always tempted to play a supporter, but you don't always have to. Sometimes you just look at your hand and you say, you know what, I don't think I need to do this. I would rather just keep my hand. Sure, I might disrupt my opponent, but there's 4 cards in my opponent's hand. I don't know what those 4 are. They could be really bad. They could be really good. I don't know, but why take the risk? I like my hand. No reason to just chance disrupting my opponent's hand. I could end up just ruining my own hand. So just something to think about. We do see an Ultra Ball. We'll have to see what this goes for, if anything at this point. You never know. Could be out of Pokemon at this point. There are a lot of Pokemon that are gone, I suppose. A couple of Yveltal are gone. That's really about it. Maybe an EX got discarded somewhere along the way, but that's probably about it. And we do see the Colress for a lot. Mewtwo actually got discarded. So I don't know. Maybe my opponent just doesn't want to bench anything else. And there's the Evil Ball for 120 damage. So goodbye, sweet Kyurem. You did a very, very good job. That's all I got to say. You did a great job. Helped out a lot. Sometimes those silly Pokemon, those Outragers, can make all the difference. You never know. Or some silly card that really shouldn't factor into the matchup finds a place. I don't know why, but sometimes that happens. All right, let's go with a Computer Search, and I think I'm going to target down the Seismitoad here. My quickest route to victory is going to be double Lysander, knock out 2 EXs. I have a Lysander and a VS Seeker left, so that option is available. I will have to draw into the VS Seeker at some point, but we should have some time at some point, I guess. I don't know. But let's Computer Search for the Lysander. I'm going to do Lysander instead of VS Seeker because I could run into weird spots with Crushing Hammer or, you never know, Flare Grunt or something like that, which can run me out of energy, and I want to leave the option to VS Seeker for a Blacksmith. So let's bring out the Seismitoad, Laser, and Scorching Fang, and actually knock out the Seismitoad. Let's take away any of those Quaking Punch shenanigans and get 2 prizes in the process. Seems like a good way to go. That way we won't be caught off guard by any laser Quaking Punch stuff. That would be really annoying. And also I get access to my item cards, so works for me. And we also get 2 prizes. And also we leave that Yveltal EX on the bench that only has 80 HP left. So things are okay right now. I'm certainly going to need another Lysander to win in a timely fashion because Pyroar doesn't really knock things out in one hit. We do see Lysander there bringing out Seismitoad EX, so my opponent will go down to 1 prize here. But what I was saying was Pyroar doesn't knock things out in one hit, so my opponent can simply take a hit with an EX, rush in, retreat, take a hit with an EX, rush in, retreat, take a hit with an EX. You get the picture. It's going to take me a lot of attacks to win, and that'll give my opponent time to draw into a Lysander and a Laser and knock out my Pyroar on the bench. So this is going to be a super, super close finish unless I draw VS Seeker right here. Come on, baby. We need a big top deck, and it's a Litleo. Could have used those a lot earlier. All right, let's go with an N. Gonna put him down to 1 card, take away any big Lysander Laser play that may be out there. and I draw a switch and an N. So here I have a weird decision. I have burned all 4 laser, I have burned 2 muscle band, I have 1 muscle band left in the deck. Now, I don't know how many enhanced hammers are left, how many crushing hammers are left, so I could just do 60, or I could discard and do 90. Now, the thing is, if I do 60 and then I don't get a muscle band, I can't actually get a knockout next turn, and that'd be pretty annoying. You know, if the Yveltal stays active, that would be super annoying. But I don't think my opponent is feeling that risky, so I'm sure just leaving the energy is the safe play there, and I actually do have the muscle band. So look at that. N puts me to 2, puts him to 1. We see the rush in with Keldeo EX, and looks like probably no enhanced hammer. That's really what I was worried about. An enhanced hammer at that point would make it super difficult for me to attack. Just going to see a pass, and oh my goodness, look at that. Top deck the VS Seeker, and that means we got a big old Lysander for the game. Bring out that Pokemon EX on the bench, and Scorching Fang for the win. And oh, he says his other Lysander was prized. Oof. And that could be the difference between a win and a loss. Looks like my blacksmith was prized. Don't know how that would have affected things, but oh well. So that was a great game, showing off the power of both decks there. The aggressive nature of his deck, and what Pyroar can do once you wear your opponent down. Still a super, super close game, but hey, I don't know. Pyroar is pretty strong, you can see there. Once it gets down to just basic Pokemon against Pyroar, there's not much they can do besides laser and pray. And if they run out of lasers, well, all their prayers are gone. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll certainly have some more for you soon. I am Pooka from the Top Cut, and I'll see you guys next time.